Hey everybody, greetings from our winter wonderland. I'm in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan right now, where of course we had a nice big blizzard last night. And I thought with this kind of weather, it's a perfect time to talk about annual plants and flowers, namely looking back at last season and talking about some of the plants that did exceptionally well for us. And they're going to be all plants that we're bringing back this year. And so I'm going to reflect on those. Stacy and I worked on a list of 20 plants that we think are really worth a mention in this video. So I'm going to tell you about them. I'm going to start out, first I got to make sure there's a lot of ice out here, and there'll probably be a lot of snow blowers and snow plows possibly. So if there's extra noise, don't worry about it. But anyway, I'm going to start with the plant that kind of surprised us right out of the gates. It was early in spring, and the very first Petunia to bloom was the SuperCal Premium Sunset Orange. And that one, it's actually a Petunia and Calibrachoa mix, and so it's actually called a Petchoa. It's absolutely gorgeous. The color on that one was so intensely orange and beautiful. We couldn't believe it. And once it started blooming, it just kept going and going and going. That's one of those plants too that it can handle the cold early in the season and later in the season. So it's really a long lasting plant. And that color really looks great in baskets because it's a really good trailing plant. And it's one of those colors too that works surprisingly well with other plants as well. So really happy about that. Next one I want to tell you about is one that at the end of the season, this would have been probably in October, I kept getting text messages from Stacy showing these two plants that really weren't supposed to be doing well because the temperature had been dropping and the weather was really bad. We had days under 26 degrees. And she had one basket where the flowers were doing fantastic. And that one had a Lofos, or Lophospermum, it's also called, and a begonia, a Solenia begonia. And it went through at least 2 deep freezes, and they just kept looking great. And I will note that they were on her deck about 6 to 8 feet from her house, and they were underneath a maple tree. So that probably created a little microclimate, but holy smokes, those are 2 plants that usually once it starts getting cold, they kind of misbehave. At least that's what we thought, but we realized they're a lot more durable than we expected, and they just kept flowering as well. And Lofos is one of those plants you might not even know about. It's a really beautiful trailing plant, loves the sun. She didn't even have it in a real sunny spot, and it still was doing great. But anyway, so that's one to really consider, and we actually have added a couple extra colors of Lofos this year, so that's kind of a nice little addition. The other one from Stacy's yard that did exceptionally well was the Americana Cherry Red or something like that. That one surprisingly just kept flowering and flowering, and she had put it on the north side of the house. It never got direct sun all summer, and it just kept flowering and flowering and flowering. So she was really happy with that one, and the color on it's really nice. It's kind of this pinky red color, just a little bit different, really nice one, especially in those containers. It just did really great for her. The other geranium she had in her boxes was the Supermoon Red, and this plant just wouldn't quit. It would send up blooms, and those blooms lasted just for so long. Stacy would send me a text message and say, haven't deadheaded this one in 2 weeks. And then a week later, hey, same plant, haven't touched it. And so these blooms were lasting 2, 3, 4 weeks. And she wasn't having to crack off any dead ones or anything. She said it was just one of the most easy maintenance geraniums she's ever had. And geraniums in general can take quite a bit of abuse, but this one was just kept going and going and going. This was also a great year for I think they're called Hiemalis geraniums or Hiemalis, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but anyway, and the one that really did well was called Amstel Blitz, or the Blitz begonia, but all of them in that kind of family did really well this year. They got bigger than normal, really floriferous. In fact, I have one sitting in the house right now that I brought in. Now, it's looking a little shabby right at this moment, but it still has some blooms on it, and the leaves look pretty good, the ones that are there. So anyway, but these just were covered in flowers this year, bigger than I remember them getting in the past. So it's just nice to see these begonias. I don't know if they've made some improvements or if it just was the right year for them. So that's always great to know that there's this plant that's just going to keep flowering all season long. I had one of the pink ones in my yard. Same thing, just kept blooming all season, and that's why it was looking so good. That's why we had to bring it in the house, because there was no way we were going to just let it die outside. And when we're talking about begonias, I want to give a hat tip to the Surefire Begonias. Those plants are just phenomenal. They can take full sun, full shade, they can handle some drought, and they just flower nonstop. And this year they're adding a Surefire White, so we're really excited to have that in the lineup. I've seen it in action, and it has beautiful glossy green leaves and then bright solid white petals. It's a nice one, so definitely want to recommend you check out that one. Granted, all of those wax begonias that we carry are really strong. They're great performers, but the Surefire, there is something about the Surefire that does give it a little edge over some of the other ones. Another one that's always dependable is the Mystic Illusion Dahlia. That one is this more branching dahlia. We had one that we put in an aquapot, so it was getting plenty of water. That thing just kept growing and growing. One plant in one pot, and that was the one when people walked in, they were just like, what is it? Like, what is that plant I want? It has beautiful dark leaves. And when we saw it growing, seeing that when you give it enough room and you give it enough water, it's just a plant that just can't be beat. So really, really thrilled about that one. And let's see, what else is on my list? We were also so pleased with the Main Street Coleus. That was that new lineup that we tried, and wow, the colors on those were good. They held up so fantastically all season long, and it's just one of those two that's nice with Coleus. You can put it in your pot or in the yard, and because it's all about the foliage, you get instant color and it lasts the whole time, and they grow nice and fast as well, so you don't have to worry about them being a little sluggish. And the only thing you got to be careful with them is that they don't get too much cold. So sorry, we'll let the snowplow people go through. Let's see, what else is on my list? This was our second year with Caladiums, and we switched over to the Heart to Heart series from Proven Winners, and wow, what a difference. Those plants just got really, really large. Leaves were fantastic, and they look great all season long. We were really happy with those again, because it was just one that it's another foliage one, can take sun or shade, although we did find that if they're in full sun, the leaves tend to last a little less time than if you put them in a more of a part sun or part shade area. So, but beautiful, beautiful addition. This year we're bringing back White Wonder, and we're adding one called Heart and Soul. Has more speckle colors in it, or more speckled pink in it. So love that one. For Calibrachoas, the Superbells Tropical Punch, that's one that it's been around for a little while, but we never got it. But it was included in one of our combo baskets. So having that in the combo basket gave us a chance to kind of see it in action. It really surprised us because it has a really unique kind of pink and yellow color to it, kind of a hash pattern on it. And that made us think it was going to be a risky one. Not at all. It was absolutely beautiful. And the great thing about that coloring is that it goes with almost anything. So you can put it with yellows and pinks, but it also looks good with oranges and peaches and even reds. It kind of pulls whatever colors are around it into it. So we were happy with that. And that one bloomed fantastic, covered in blooms, and didn't require any kind of work from us. It was just really nice. We just had to make sure it was getting its fertilizer and its water, and it did great. Another favorite of ours is the Vermillionaire Cuphea. Now we carry a couple Cupheas. The Vermillionaire is the bigger one. It has bigger branches, bigger leaves, bigger flowers, and that's the one that the hummingbirds go crazy for. And that's one, it can handle a little bit of drought, and it doesn't require much care, and it just kind of does its thing. Has beautiful shape to it as well. So would put that one on the list again this year. I think that one's going to be a perpetual favorite. Then I want to tell you about the Suncredible Saturn Helianthus. That's that branching sunflower with nonstop blooms, huge plant. This was a new one last year, so it had kind of that ring of orange in the center. And it's no surprise that did well, because we've been carrying the Suncredible Yellow for several years. The Suncredible Saturn did just as well. So really happy about that one, and would definitely recommend it. That's another one of those one pot wonders. Like, you put it in there, it gets huge. You don't have to worry about anything with it. It just does its thing, can handle a little bit of drought as well, and can be used as a cut flower. Then in the salvias, there's Rockin Playin the Blues. That was a one that we had just tried this year. That is our biggest salvia. It gets gargantuan, absolutely huge, and it flowered all season. Hummingbirds liked it. We had pollinators all over it, and just really easy to grow. We had tried some other salvia the Rockin Fuchsia and the Bodacious Hummingbird Falls, and those were absolutely stunning, but they were more temperamental about watering. If they had too much water, they just started looking a little off. Didn't flower as well when they were oversaturated. So they don't make the cut, although they are beautiful. I really did love them, but they're a little harder to take care of. So we're saving the list for only the ones that are easy and just impressive on that front. Now in petunias, the Supertunia Vista Jazzberry, that was a new one last year from Proven Winners, had beautiful pink color. That one was so nice. You may be familiar with the Supertunia Vista bubblegum. That's the one that made Supertunias absolutely famous. Well, this one is in the same family, but has a little bit different habit. The flowers are slightly smaller, and it has a kind of a denser, more mounded habit, but it still gets really huge. It flowered nonstop all season. So absolutely loved that one. Definitely going with that one again. And the color is just a little bit different. It's not fuchsia. It's not pink. It just has a little bit different, a little bit more purple in it. So it is unique among the petunias in and of itself. So love that one. Another perpetual favorite is the lemon coral sedum. That is that lime green kind of succulent plant. It does a little bit of trailing, does a lot of mounding. It takes a lot of drought, and it just fills in really, really nice. I really love that plant. It doesn't get any flowers, but it doesn't need them. We did notice, it's supposed to get pretty much full sun, part sun, but you can put it in shadier spots. Just realize that it won't get that super lime color. It tends to be a little darker green. So it can handle shadier spots, but looks its best in full sun. The Hot Plus Lobelia was a new one for us. Absolutely, hands down, probably the best lobelia we've ever had. It is one of those, it does so well in the heat of summer, and lobelia have a reputation for kind of petering out after the heat comes on. This one didn't, and the flowers on it are much larger than most of the lobelia that we've seen. So that one, we're definitely doing that one again. In addition to the dark blue, the sky blue, and the white, this year there is an electric purple, so it's got more of that violet color, really intense on it. So really thrilled to add another color on that series. When it comes to Scaevola or Scaevola, the Surdiva series, it's been our favorite, and the fashion pink color is definitely number one in our look. In our book, it has such a saturated pink color. It's stunning, and this is the one that has that really nice habit that I call the Gidget, where it goes up, comes down, and comes up. So it's just like Gidget's hairdo, where it has that nice little curl to it. Really like that one. All the colors are great, but the fashion pink is the one that really sets it apart. Much more color on that one than what we see from a lot of the other Scaevolas or Scaviolas, depending on how you like to pronounce it. So definitely, if you're looking for one that can take a lot of drought and does great in the summer. It's a little sluggish in the start in June, but once it gets going, it's nonstop and you never have to deadhead it. The other one that absolutely wowed me was the Bee's Knees Petunia. This one is that gorgeous yellow color. It does tend to have a little bit of a paler center, but it keeps this kind of dark veining, so it really does hold its color. It gives it more of a velvety kind of coloring to it, and that velvety color tends to blend well with other ones. The other thing that I loved about it is flowers are really big and covered in them, and its habit is a lot like a Supertunia. It gets quite large. It trails beautifully, like goes right over any pot that you put it in and kind of cascades down. It's definitely a top performer. And in the yellows, like a lot of the yellows like to push that they're the best because they're yellow from center to edge, solid yellow. This one doesn't have that, but it doesn't need it because I think it actually gives it much more depth and much more texture to it by having that little bit of kind of veining going on inside. So love that one. Our favorite plant of last year was the brand new Color Blaze Albrighto Coleus from Proven Winners. That plant had some of the most incredible colors I've ever seen on a Coleus, actually on plants in general. Just really incredible shades on it. And when I first started kind of showing its color, I was like, oh, that'll look great with oranges and yellows. But then I saw it with a peachy keen verbena. It looked great with peach. It's just one of those that looks good with so much stuff. we did nothing with this plant and it just kept going and going and going. The colors of the leaves do kind of change a little bit over the season, but every time it did, it looked great. The only time it looked a little weird was when it first sent up its leaves. They were very kind of dark brownish red, so not a real attractive color, but then it quickly got its color, and once it did that, it just looked fantastic the rest of the season. So, and that one gets really big too, so it was an impressive plant all around. So it was, I'm really happy we got that one. If you're thinking of getting the Albrighto, I would absolutely suggest that you pre-order it, because we are going to have a limited supply, and last year that was one that we ran out of probably by Mother's Day. So definitely look at that. In fact, all of these, because they did so well, I think people are going to be coming back for them. So these are good ones to put on your pre-order list. So I want to tell you about that. We have included all of these on the upnorthgarden.com website. That's that online library of plants that we carry. From there you can create wish lists of all your favorites, so that way when springtime comes you can just refer back to your wish list. You're not going to have to go back to this video, and you can have all your favorites kind of grouped in there and be able to decide which ones are going to be best for you come springtime. So hey, thank you very much for watching. We're going to have a couple more videos out in the upcoming weeks. They're going to be a little bit sparse, but I promise we'll keep telling you about all the new varieties and the new stuff. I do recommend following our Facebook page, because we are, and also on Instagram, posting a lot of the new varieties that we're bringing on this year.